Well, if you hate politicians and love straight talk, then this is the candidate forum for you. There's no canned sound bites or empty rhetoric with the two candidates for Justice of the Peace Precinct 1, just straight talk, Rockwall County. I'm Bunker Bob Steinhagen, and this is the Bunker Bob Show. Well, welcome back, friends, to the 7th of 10 Republican candidate forums being held in the bunker. And if you're a voter in Rockwall County's JP Precinct 1, then let not your heart be troubled, because here in the bunker today are two of the finest men I have had the pleasure of talking to, both of whom have dedicated their lives to protecting and serving the people of Texas who want to continue that service as your Justice of the Peace. Now, I want to give the two candidates the opportunity to put their best foot forward, which is why, as I have always done, the candidates received a copy of the questions before they had to decide to participate. Through the magic of video, it appears that both candidates are in studio at the same time. However, each one sat down with me for a one-on-one interview, which is edited together to create the illusion that they're here at the same time. This is why I will ask follow-up questions of one candidate but not the other, and why the candidates do not respond to one another's answers. In fact, the first time either candidate will have heard the answers from their opponent will be after the show has been broadcast. Now, I never place time limits on candidates' answers. However, when they go long, and sometimes they do, we will edit it for time. Before every interview, I let each candidate know that they can re-answer or restate anything they say, because the purpose is for them to be the best that they can be. I also want to add that both men had to re-record their closing comments several times because neither came with a prepared closing statement, and they both said that they hate talking about themselves. After all, both of them have spent their lives taking action, not talking. Far too often we find ourselves having to choose between the lesser of two poor choices, but we have the rare opportunity to choose between the best of two fine candidates. So, let me introduce the candidates for today's show, and I want to start with Brian Tabor, who has served the public as a police officer for 25 years. Before retiring from the Dallas Police Department, he served in the patrol, deployment, and as a detective in the Homicide Division and Public Integrity Unit, where he was featured on several episodes of A&E's homicide documentary series, The First 48. Brian served on the board of directors with the Dallas Police Association, where he represented the interests of fellow police officers. He has arrested hundreds of violent felons in that role and as a member of a federal task force with the United States Marshal Service. Brian and his wife of 19 years, Valerie, have called Rockwall County their home for over 17 years, where he has also been a longtime volunteer youth coach in baseball and football in Rockwall, and as well as serving on the board of a local youth football athletic league. Their two sons, Gavin, who's 18, and Ryan, who's 14, have both proudly attended RISD since kindergarten. Brian's wife, Valerie, currently serves as an assistant district attorney. And Brian, it is great to have you here today.
Thank you, Bob. Thanks for having me.
You bet. And now let me introduce Tony Norton. Tony is a fifth-generation Texan, born and raised on traditional Texas values and morals based on Christian faith and teachings. At 53, he is a graduate of Kilgore, where he earned an Associate of Applied Science degree in Criminal Justice and a Bachelor of Arts degree in Criminal Justice Administration from Stephen F. Austin State University. Tony served the people of Texas for 32 years, 8 of those years with the Texas Department of Criminal Justice Institutional Division, and 24 years as a Texas game warden, retiring as captain of Rockwall and the surrounding counties. That's the most dangerous job that any police law enforcement can have. Am I correct?
I think they're all dangerous equally.
You don't think game warden? I've always understood that it's the most dangerous position someone can.
Usually our closest backup is 30 minutes to an hour away.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're it unless we have a partner with us. So we're in the remote areas of Texas, and it's the nature of the job.
Gosh, you must have blood like ice. I mean, I can't.
I wouldn't call it that. I think it's more faith in God. to
I
take care
cannot
of us.
imagine being a law enforcement, in law enforcement, period, much less a game warden. So my kudos to you on that. Tony is currently serving as deputy constable in Collin County Precinct 1, where he works daily in the Justice of the Peace Court in McKinney, assisting the judge and court staff on processing their various court dockets. Tony and his wife, Amy, have been married for 25 years. They have 3 wonderful children. Brittany, who's married to Austin, better to be married to Austin than live in Austin, I will say that.
Amen.
And you and Amy have a new title, Grandpa and Grandma.
Yes,
Am I
sir.
right? With Zaid and Nala.
Very proud.
Wow, that's so great. Their son, Sean, is engaged to their soon-to-be daughter-in-law, Heather, and their youngest son, Jace, proudly serves this country in the United States Army. Best of all, their children, except for Jace, of course, are residents of Rockwall County area and are involved in many local community activities. Well, Tony, thank you for being here.
Thank you. Appreciate the invitation.
You bet. The first question is, why are you running for Rockwall County Justice of the Peace? Tony?
Well, I want to continue my public service to the local community here in Rockwall, working to keep it safe and secure place for us to raise our families and to live our daily lives.
Very good. Brian?
Well, Bob, I've been in law enforcement for 25 years, and I've done a lot of different things in law enforcement. My last 13 years, I've been a homicide detective, and I think I'm feeling a need to make a change in my life, and I wanted to be in Rockwall. I want to do something for my community. This is my community. My community is not Dallas.
Yeah.
I love Dallas, but it's not my community.
Yeah.
And I wanted to take what I know from the job that I've been doing for a long time and use that experience to help Rockwall. And with the upcoming vacancy in the Justice of the Peace Precinct 1 office, the responsibilities that the JP holds is a lot of things that I have done throughout my career. And I believe that the transition between the two would be, great for me and for the community.
Very good. What do you consider to be the primary functions of the Justice of the Peace office? Brian, how would you answer this?
Well, one of the more important things they do, and they do have a lot of duties, is they do all the death inquiries. And to some people, that may not understand what that means, but when you go out on a natural death or a suicide, or it could be accidental, usually in a larger county, the coroner sends out an investigator. But in Rockwall, the JP acts as basically the coroner, and they would request an inquiry into that death if they see anything suspicious or things that need to be looked into further. And I truly believe, with my experience as a homicide detective, I've worked thousands of death cases, and I've seen things slip through the cracks on even natural deaths involving elderly people. And, that's scary that can happen, especially for the families, and believing one thing and the other thing happening. And I just want to use my experience to help with that role. And also, I truly believe that because they also act as a magistrate, they do they set bonds, and that's a new hot topic, especially throughout Texas.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, when you can put somebody in jail for murder in Dallas, and 2 days later they're out on a bond for $25,000, that takes somebody like me and makes me not want to do that job anymore. Because when you see somebody on the street that could potentially do more harm and to more victims, it's a sad state. And as the JP here at Rockwall, I would make sure that the bond is set appropriately to fit the crime. And I don't want to see anybody get hurt because of a mistake that I would do by putting somebody out and letting them go on a lower bond. There's a lot of duties that they do.
You also hold court.
You hold court. You hold civil trials. And holding trial, you're a judge, which you sit in front of people and you have to make a determination of either a dollar amount on a civil case, or somebody should be evicted from their home. And I think that just applying the laws and common sense is the the most important part of that part of being the judge sitting on a bench. And a lot of it is just common sense and decency and doing the right thing.
Tony, how would you answer that?
I believe the judicial side of what we do is the most important. You're dealing with different kinds of cases that are coming into the court on a daily basis, working with the staff and the court staff and the people that work in the court system to process those cases through and get them on the docket if it's required, and get them through to the final disposition, keeping records of all of that. I think that's probably the most important part of what a JP does is the judicial side of things and keeping things flowing in a fashion with all the many cases that come in.
Yeah, and how many cases generally are there in Precinct 1? Do you know? Because I wouldn't have the slightest clue.
Yeah, I know where I'm at in McKinney. It's a lot higher than what it is in Rockwall. And up there, I know just in the constable's office, we do over 5,000 papers a year.
Wow.
Between the deputies that we have. So, and that's just a small portion of what the JP issues. I mean, they do a lot of communications with people that file the cases, the plaintiffs, the defendants. There's a lot of coordination that goes on between the staff in the office and those individuals to get people to court that need to be in court or working together to try to resolve whatever case is before the court.
Very good. Though a justice of the peace court holds and makes judicial rulings based on Texas law, a law degree is not a necessary qualification for this office. How well do you understand Texas law, and what experience do you have that demonstrates your understanding and ability to make rulings that protect the rights of citizens? Tony, how about you?
So, I have a 4-year degree in criminal justice administration from Stephen F. Austin State University. Not only do I have that degree, but I practiced that for the last 32 years.
Yes, you have.
In my profession.
Yes, you have.
Working daily as a police officer and enforcing those laws and rules, working 27 years as a law enforcement officer, some of my time was with the prison system. So it was dealing with criminals that have been convicted of crimes. They still have rights even though they've lost their freedom. Mm-hmm. So ensuring that those rights were guaranteed and not infringed upon while they're in custody was something I did on a daily basis there. And I think with that kind of background both in law enforcement and the corrections side of the house, ensuring people's rights are not infringed upon and, guaranteeing those and keeping them alive for that individual, I think is very important. Just because you're accused of a crime or convicted of a crime doesn't mean you lose all your rights. Like I said, I work now currently in the constable's office, working with Judge in Precinct 1 in Collin County. So I'm seeing the inner workings of the court on a daily basis, seeing the cases that are brought before the court, the many different aspects of the different cases that are presented and brought through the dockets, and seeing that firsthand and working with the judge and the staff to process those through the system, I believe gives me the strength to make good decisions based on current Texas law and keeping it fair for everybody that's comes to the court.
I bet you sit there and go, I can do that.
Well, yeah, I can do it, but there's always room for improvement. And there's always room for learning. If you ever stop learning, you're not improving on what you're doing. So I'm a big believer in education, a big believer in increasing your knowledge in the area that you specialize in. My grandfather taught me a long time ago, said, find something that you enjoy, find something that you're good at, and be the best at it. So, that's the work ethic I've carried throughout my life. And, he taught me well, and I miss him. But it still lives on.
Now it's your turn.
Yes, sir.
As Grandpa.
Absolutely.
That's great. That's great. How about you, Brian?
Well, Bob, again, I've been in law enforcement for 25 years, 23 with Dallas. And I basically practice the laws that we have in Texas.
You have to know the laws to enforce them.
You have to know them to enforce them.
Sure.
And we also take education. We do legislation updates, yearly or when they come out every 2 years. We continue to take classes to know the law. So you do that throughout your career as a law enforcement officer. But like you said, and you put it perfectly, to enforce them, you have to know them. And I've been doing that for a long time, and I do keep up on the laws. I want to better myself and better my job by being knowledgeable.
Very good.
Yeah.
How will you ensure objectivity in cases, particularly those where one party is represented by a legal counsel and the other one is not? Brian?
Yeah, Bob. So if I'm presiding over a trial, a civil trial, whatever it may be, and one party does have an attorney, that wouldn't have any difference. I think I'm going to go towards the evidence in the case. I'm going to look at the witnesses or the facts of the case and follow those. And I'm not going to worry about one person having an attorney and the other person not. I think it comes down to fairness and integrity and just common sense.
Well, someone not represented by an attorney oftentimes doesn't know what they don't know. And so an attorney certainly does. They'll know the rules, they'll know the law, and they'll know what to say, not what to say oftentimes. So the question really hinges on that person who is who really doesn't have the money,
right,
to hire an attorney. And as that process goes through, how are they going to get a fair trial?
Well, I think it comes down to the facts of the case, whether they know the procedure of the court or not. I think it comes down to why are they there and what are they seeking or what are they being accused of. And it just comes down to the facts of the case. If somebody can intelligently present their case without knowing the law and it makes sense, and I think you just go off that. You go off the evidence. You follow the evidence. You never worry about the attorney using larger words and knowing more of the procedure. I think it just comes down to the facts.
Very good.
Yeah.
Tony?
One of the things that's unique about the JP is he has the ability to develop the case, which means asking questions of either side. So if you got a pro se litigant in the courtroom and they're not sure what the elements it would take to get to presenting that particular suit, the judge can ask those questions to get to that point to help develop that case. So that's something where it kind of levels the playing field a little bit. The attorneys know the system. They have a lot more education in that system, so they use the system to their advantage, and I think that's what you're referring to. And those guidelines are set by law,
right? So
we have to follow the rule of law in the courtroom to make sure everybody's treated fairly. And if that option's there, the court has to consider it. So you have to follow the rule of law, but at the same time you try to make it fair for everybody across the board.
What do you perceive as the greatest obstacles to justice, if any? Tony?
I believe that the public knowing what remedies are available in the justice court system for them, for civil or even the criminal aspect, and then on top of that, knowing what the procedures are to present cases inside the justice of the peace court. I think those are the limitations that because I see it every day in McKinney, where people come to court, thinking, okay, I'm going to sue this person, but they're not prepared to present their case, and they don't know how to present the case in the court. So I think that's one of the biggest obstacles that I see on my level that could be improved upon to help those individuals, be able to increase their knowledge in that system and help present their cases in an effective manner to move them through the court system effectively.
Thank you. Brian?
Well, I think the biggest obstacle to overcome is just fairness and treating everybody just and honorably. And I think that once you get the reputation of people that come in before you in court, and that they know you as a good man or a good judge or a good person, I think that's a way to get over that obstacle of people not trusting law enforcement, not trusting judges, not trusting the system in general. And I think it just comes down to how you carry yourself on the bench.
Very good. What are your top priorities, and what steps will you take to make sure that these goals are achieved? Brian, how would you answer that?
Well, my first priority would be to have a smooth transition into the court. Meet the staff that are there now, because they're going to be the ones that know how to run the place, and getting into the office and learning from them how to do the job. My second priority would be to gain the respect of my colleagues and my community, and that would be by serving them. Kind of goes back to my other answer, but serving with respect and being known as a good judge, a hardworking judge, somebody who is always there on the bench if needed. He's always out there going and responding to calls if needed. I think you just have to have the respect of your colleagues and the community to do the job and gain their trust. And my third priority would be to get more involved with the community. Try to have classes, hold some type of educational class where you can teach younger students about simple things, traffic laws, understanding the court system, having them come in. I know the high school has law enforcement classes. Have them come into the court and see how the court works, and that way they have an understanding of how to navigate through the court system and law enforcement.
Very good.
Yeah.
Tony, how about you?
So my first objective is when I get into office, is to go in and look at the court dockets and see what we have pending before the court. Try to go through those with the staff. Figure out what's needed and what's priority, and what's coming up, and get my head wrapped around what's in the courts at the time, and what steps we can take to coordinate with the staff to get those pushed through to a final disposition, and get the dockets moving and keep them going. I mean, they're moving now, but now that we've started back in-person trials and that kind of thing, so
keeping the docket moving.
Keeping the docket moving,
okay.
I think is very important. It can get backlogged, and has, because of the 2020 COVID issue, where all the courts were shut down. But it's getting back moving, and the dockets are moving. So my primary concern when I get into office is to look at those cases that are pending before the court and try to get them through to a final disposition. The second thing is continuing to develop my relationships with the court staff and the judges and the constables, the DA's office, the law enforcement agencies that I'll be working with, to help, enforce the law and make sure justice is served in the county. I have a lot of established relationships already because of my prior position as a game warden captain. We have a lot of good working relationships with those people that are in office now, and I plan to continue to build on those relationships and continue to work with them to serve this county.
Thank you very much.
Oh, and the third thing.
Yeah,
three.
That's what I.
So one of the things that we have in Collin County that makes the courts efficient is e-filing.
Yes.
For cases.
Yes.
So I know that's something that's on the agenda here locally to do that. So I want to work with the other judges and the county administration to try to get that through to make it easier for our constituents to file those cases in the court, where they don't have to come up there and hand a piece of paper to the clerk, and we can get those more expeditiously filed and try to go electronic as much as we can with our communications and emails and those kind of things, to try to help expedite those dockets.
Very good. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
So, why should people vote for you over your opponent? Tony?
Well, I believe I'm the best qualified for the job. I have that degree. Not only do I have that degree, I've used that degree for 32 years to working in the criminal justice system, both in the prison and as a law enforcement officer. I know how to treat people fair, and I believe that I have that experience that's needed. I have experience working within the justice court system, which is very important. I have that experience. 24 plus years of doing that, working directly with the judges throughout the state of Texas, not only just in Rockwall County, but other counties as well. I've held administrative positions for 13 plus years, where I have supervised employees, I've managed offices, and supervised the budgets and developed budgets, and I have that experience also in developing and managing budgets, supervising employees and managing government office financials for that office is something that I've done for the last 13 years with Parks and Wildlife.
Yeah.
So I have that management experience. I have that budget experience on the state level, and I think bringing that to the county level is easily done. I have good working relationships with the administration that's in office now, and if they were to remain in office, even the ones that are going up for election, if they were to get in, I have relationships with those individuals as well. So I have the ability to work with other individuals and other elected officials to get things done effectively and the best, making the best use of our tax dollars. I'm not a spend it all type of person. Working for the state, I saw firsthand some of the things that trying to get things processed and get things done sometimes can be astronomical. You have vendors that would see the state and think they could just charge I'm gonna get my tax money back.
Oh yeah.
So you had to be a fiscal type of manager to make sure that you're getting the best use of your tax dollars, and I took that job very seriously because I'm a taxpayer myself, and I think wasteful spending in government is not good. And being responsible, you wouldn't do that with your own money, so why would you do it with the tax money? So I believe wholeheartedly in that, and I think having somebody that has that management experience and having that fiscal responsibility experience in that position is very important. Not only the judicial side, but you need to have the strength and the experience to maintain that office, look at your budget, and effectively manage that budget, to get the job done.
Very good. Brian?
Well, my opponent and I both are law enforcement.
Yes.
We both have decades of experience in law enforcement. I do believe with my experience is different than his in law enforcement, obviously. And a lot of the duties that I had are the same duties, but on the other side as a justice of the peace. Again, I was in homicide for 13 years. The most important part of the job to me would be the death inquiries. I think that my experience alone on that is not matched by my opponent. And again, I've written hundreds, if not thousands, of probable cause affidavits and arrested hundreds of people, if not thousands in my career. And I think given all that experience that I have and that correlates to the duties of a JP, I mean, I can go through the list of everything that a JP does, and I've done that in my career. The protective orders, issuing protective orders. I've arrested people for violating protective orders. The magistrate duties. So that would be signing a warrant that law enforcement comes to sign. And I have, because of my career in law enforcement, I have extensive experience writing probable cause affidavits and taken those warrants to the magistrates to have them signed. And I know what they want. And I think over time you gain, when you write a report or a warrant and they sign it without any questions because they know you, they know how you do your job. And I think I could transition that into being the magistrate and reading a detective's probable cause affidavit and knowing what to look for, knowing that he has to have probable cause, obviously, seeing the facts of the case and knowing that what I'm signing is going to be legitimate for my office and the law enforcement officer's agency. So again, I'm going off my experience. I've done it for a long time, and I know that I can do this job for the community of Rockwall.
Brian, you talk about the death notices or death calls as being the most important aspect of it. When I think about Rockwall County, how many death calls are there in Precinct 1?
Well, you'd be surprised, and death calls aren't necessarily because somebody was murdered,
right,
or was in an accident.
I had always thought it was usually accidental or death at home, but that's not.
No.
It
It can be a perceived natural death as well. Uh-huh. And going into like a case that I've worked before where we had elderly women who their death were ruled natural, and they were released to funeral homes, and that was by the medical examiner's office in Dallas, and nothing was really done about it. And then through investigations and other cases, we had learned and discovered that these women had been murdered. And I think it takes someone to know what to look for. And if something doesn't look right, just go ahead and do the inquiry and don't just assume that they died naturally.
Well, in Rockwall County, if let's say someone dies at home, are detectives usually called out, or is the JP the person that goes out?
Well, the JP will be notified.
Yeah,
because they're notified of every death case.
Yes.
In Rockwall.
Yeah.
And I don't know about Rockwall PD or the county if they have to respond to all deaths or just unoccupied or unattended. That I'm not sure about.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. The curiosity for me. Well, I hope that this has been helpful for you, and I appreciate both candidates being here and answering these tough questions. And I hope it's kind of given you a better insight as to where they stand on and how they're going to carry out their duties if elected. But I want to give each candidate the opportunity to speak directly to you and explain to you why they are the best person for your vote. So with that, Brian, take it away.
Yeah, Bob. So, I've been in Rockwall for over 17 years, going on 18. I love this community. I've always tried to give to this community. I've coached baseball, football. I've been vice president of the local football league here in Rockwall. I've coached many of the kids who are currently playing with Rockwall High School now. And I recently retired from Dallas PD after 23 years. And want to use the knowledge that I've gained through the Dallas Police Department and bring it to Rockwall County. I want to share what I know and use it for the justice of the peace. And I think that as a JP here in Precinct 1, I'm going to work as hard as I can for the community. I'm going to be there every day. I'm going to show up, and I'm going to do what they need me to do.
Tony?
I really believe that justice is important to this community. I treat people firm and fair across the board to make sure that your rights are not infringed upon through the court process. I believe in the rule of law, and I will make sure that that is followed and that I am educated to the point that I can make those decisions on a level that you would appreciate as an individual and society can accept as a whole. I would truly appreciate your vote for Justice of the Peace Precinct 1. And I'm Tony Norton, and I thank you for your time and watching this show.
Well, I want to thank both candidates for their willingness to come into the bunker and answer questions that conservative-minded voters deserve to hear. If you have more questions of them or wish to know more about their campaigns, I posted links to their website in the description of today's show. If you found this show helpful or informative, please hit the like button or smash the rumble key. And if you haven't already, consider subscribing to this channel so that you can stay up to date on the forefront of conservative politics in and around Texas. Remember that you're watching this because you want to be an informed voter, so be sure to share the link to this program with your friends and neighbors who can vote in Precinct 1. And don't forget that early voting begins on Monday, February 14th through Friday, February 25th, and Election Day is Tuesday, March 1st. It was Thomas Jefferson who said that when the people fear government, there is tyranny. When the government fears the people, there is liberty. We are a country of the people, by the people, and for the people, and the only way we can keep it that way is for you to get out and vote for conservatives who will uphold and protect our liberty. So, until next time, I'm Bunker Bob Steinhagen, looking forward to seeing you at the polls. Blessings.